Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker with our very special guest and a good friend, Mr. John Fullerton. He's got a great message for you if you're interested in possibly buying or selling a business and all the details that go along with it. John, thanks for joining us here on the show.
Thank you very much, Lynn.
You've got a great symbol here. Maybe you can just kind of explain what in the world this means. It's fun to take a look at, I guarantee you, but I'm not sure we understand exactly what you know so well. And explain to us, please.
Well, first of all, last time we met, we talked about business valuation and the three primary methods, how businesses are valued. And the leading method is called the market comparison approach, which is based primarily on how much money it makes. And then there's a multiple of value. So a business is then worth maybe one, but maybe three or maybe more times what it makes net. Because then what the buyers and the banks and the underwriters are looking for is primarily cash flow. And they have to get service coverage ratios and things like that, or they can't get it financed. So you have to be able to show a profit, and they're going to look at your tax return.
Yes.
That's how they're going to determine. They're not going to trust your P&L right up. They're going to look at what you swore to Uncle Sam you made.
I see.
And so, but
Sure.
Then there are certain things that we do that, when we own a business to reduce our tax liability as much as possible. If you own a small business, you want to get your taxable income as low as you can so that you can reduce your taxes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But when I'm trying to look at it and I'm trying to help you to sell your business, or if you're having somebody to value it, then you want that number to be as high as you possibly can. So I mentioned that
There's a little conflict there, a little tension.
Exactly. So when you're preparing, within the last 5 years before you want to retire, or more, you really want to think about these things and make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, because many businesses never sell because people didn't think about these things and prepare well in advance and groom and prepare their tax returns so that they look right and show the best possible value.
Right.
So if you are trying to make money, or trying to reduce your tax liability, so then, well, there's different things that you would do. So you do, of course,
These are write-offs,
EBITDA.
essentially?
Yeah, they might be perks or things that, they're expenses that you can write off, right? But some of them are legitimate, what we call add backs, and then you can add them back in so that then we can bring your income, your bottom line back up again. So there's never, EBITDA. What does EBITDA stand for? Do you know what EBITDA stands for?
Well, I think it starts with earnings
That's
before some interest and taxes. Is that what it is?
That's right.
Okay.
Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So those are all actually add backs. So the first add back, if you pay yourself a salary, well, that's going to reduce your taxable income on your business.
Yeah.
But if you're an LLC, you're still going to probably pay income tax on that. But the accountant might say you want to pay yourself a salary and not just take it all as a draw. You don't want to just take the profit. You want to pay yourself a salary. So then you actually are paying yourself a salary. Well, it reduces the taxable profit on your income tax, right?
You're paying yourself a salary, and the question is, what's too much or too little? I think, right?
Well, actually, it's the nature of it. So it's fine. You can do that because I'm going to add it back. It's still money in your pocket, right? You paid yourself a salary, so it's still money in your pocket. But your business shows that it made a lower profit by that amount of the earnings of your
Thus,
your
that
salary.
makes it hard to sell. Obviously, less profit.
Right, but I can add it back. And the banks and the underwriters and the evaluators all agree that's good. So the first one I'm going to take out here, and this is Jenga, this game. So it's each one of these things that we move here is going to symbolize a different add back. All right, so this add back is our earnings or our salary. So then if I pay myself a salary, I can add that back. All right, so now, why don't you pick another one? Try and, pull one out.
John, I'm not so sure that I'm as steady as you are, and certainly not as strategic, but I'll keep moving forward here.
There you go. That's it, all right.
We don't want to influence
pull that one up.
Other blocks too much.
Put it on the top, right?
Okay. Now, what does that symbolize?
So that one is, the first one was salary or wages. This is depreciation, EBITDA, right? So we had depreciation, and then another one is amortization. So amortization is, expenses that you started up the business or whatever, but they're an investment in that business. I don't like that one. I'm going to put it in back.
Okay.
That will give you then, we can add back depreciation, because really it's not cash that you spent that year. It's a tax write-off, right?
Sure,
so we can add that back. That's no problem, right?
Uh-huh.
So then the next one is interest. So go ahead and try and pick one out. Interest is something that, if a buyer is looking at it or a seller, that's like, well, you don't have to take, if you have enough money, you wouldn't have to take out a loan. So why should, and you might take out a big loan. So why would we count the interest? They just add back the interest. So that one you can bring up in the top two.
And does it go this way, or does
it
matter?
There you go. I think you want to go back and forth. Yes, there you go.
Okay.
And so I'm not great at this game either, but
I've never played the game, but
you're doing great so far.
Okay.
So the loan, interest, and the repayments, of course, should be on your balance sheet. So
All
then
right.
Also your owner's payroll taxes or health insurance. So like if you pay for health insurance for yourself, for your, through your business, and your business provides that as a perk,
yes,
then, that's still, you didn't have to spend money on that after you paid your income taxes on your salary. So that's a legitimate add back, and we can add that back, right?
Okay.
So now let's do the next one. Can you try and pick one up too?
Well, what are the critical problems? I mean, you need an advisor to tell you whether you can actually do this or not do that, right?
Yes. So, we're going to talk about this because some people add back things that are not really legitimate. One-time legal expenses or one-time expenses are usually kind of acceptable add backs,
Okay.
right? So a one-time expense, you bought something, if it's equipment, you should depreciate it and you should have it in your asset. But if it was small enough, you didn't depreciate it. But a new owner, a new buyer, the buyer after he bought it, if it's money that he wouldn't have to spend to make the same kind of money that you did and make that same kind of profit, then that's kind of the definition of the add back, right? Then we add back any other things. So like just one-time type of expenses or things like that. So, and then,
now, let's just scoot ahead to the end of this particular cycle. What if this all crumbled symbolically? What would that imply? What would cause that? Or what pieces here should you not touch, if you know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly. So, legitimate things are, personal vehicle expenses, but only that portion that you use for the business, right?
Okay.
So if you try to add back the whole vehicle expense, then people might look a little cross-eyed at it. You might be okay with it. It depends, But then also, personal travel. You pay for you're going on a vacation to Tahiti. People might try to write that off. We discourage that, But if it's a legitimate business purpose,
Or you might even stop somebody on the way to Hawaii and have a little business meeting with somebody.
As long as there's a business meeting involved, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. As long as there's some business, or but it's optional. So, like, let's say it's for a convention, and I don't have to go to the convention, but it helps me improve myself, and so it's discretionary. These are discretionary. The owner's discretion. They expend these things. But, so then also might be your cell phone or other kinds of technology that you use it for both, that's okay for the most part,
Sure.
And home office expenses, okay, you can add those.
You're now talking about a really broad arena of expenses that seem pretty good or okay, right?
That's right.
What would be an example of stepping over the line? And how would that show up in this situation? If you do too much, it'll
fall down. That's right.
Support the company. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
Yeah. So there's some things that are kind of in the between. You might have family members, or they're on payroll, but they are overpaid, or maybe they don't really do much, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I can add back part of that. Also, any things that are just donations are okay in clubs, but optional things. But clearly illegal things. Would be like if you are really wishful thinking is one of them, right? Like it's like, well, if somebody didn't do this and and then they did that, then they'd make a lot more money. Sure. Well, it might be a good selling point, but it doesn't necessarily impact the value because it's based on your past performance, not necessarily what the future. The buyer is looking for an opportunity that they can grow and increase the value.
Right.
Or so other things like, I'm just gonna. I'm just going to spend things on myself or on my wife. Those are the really illegitimate ones. So then you start taking out too many of these things, and it just gets the tower gets more and more. the whole tower can collapse.
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
So you need to talk with an advisor. Now, accountants might know some of these things, but what is really a legitimate and not a legitimate add back? A business advisor who has experience selling businesses then can really help you to sit down.
Because they have a different perspective than an accountant would.
Right, because they're dealing with the market. It's not just the balance sheet.
Yeah.
It's the market. It's whether or not someone will buy it. And most importantly, will the lender also underwrite it?
Great.
So
Great.
those kinds of things that you want to, consider in terms of what can affect your business.
Right. All right. Well, John Fullerton with Transworld Business Advisors. Did I say that correct?
You sure did.
Transworld, while you're here, they are in fact the largest company in this industry. Isn't that correct?
We have more than 250 offices all around the world. Yes, and we've got about 6,000 businesses listed for sale right now.
And they provided you with a lot of this training and background so that you could be a... All right.
We've got a great training program.
Yeah,
so
it's a pleasure to have you again here, John, and you've really broken down a complex topic for us. The next generation of buyers are coming up, and I'm sure they're going to be watching this portion of our show again and again. So thank you so much for being with us.
You bet.
And we're going to talk about our next promotional sponsor in just a minute. We'll be right back. Once again, thanks again for joining us here at WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker, and this particular program has been brought to you by a company here in the eastern Nebraska area. It's called Nebraska Now, and I want to say Nebraska, N-E-W is the first syllable, so you understand that this is an unusual organization that you may want to be a part of if indeed, and I've got an interesting list here, If you're interested, for instance, in a new context, kind of a new way to think about business and your career, just think about that for a moment. And we're talking now about people that are educating you, that are working with you, that are answering all kinds of interesting exercises and getting people's input on your particular answer to that one question that I just gave you. And we have of course, new technology would have to be at the very top. This word new precedes everything. So here we are in a state where we have difficulty attracting young workers, and they know that it's a family-oriented state, and there's good people here and good education, so on and so forth, but they're not coming to our state, and it's really impacting, of course, the population, makes it very difficult for employers to get the work out and attract enough workers to reach their maximum and go to the next level year after year after year. They're really struggling with that. So new technology is part of Nebraska Now. And so remember, as I say this phrase, Nebraska Now, this is an organization that you can join. You would have to be comfortable attending groups and events and meetings and so on. Sharing ideas, giving people a boost, so to speak, and seeing something and potential in their business as it becomes discussed and so on, and contributing in some way. So it's a very interesting organization, and this is a pivotal time in our lives and in our industries. So that's why Nebraska Now is extremely leverageable and relevant. All right, so we go new technology and also new value. This would be the next thing, new value. We're going to talk about that towards the end of this particular show, but it's difficult sometimes to create some new way to attract people to your product or service. You've got to find a way to attract them and create new value. That's a big deal, and you'll learn a lot about that if you're a member of Nebraska Now. New brand. A lot of us realize that branding is important, but we don't know what to say about it. And if you're branding, usually it's emotional. It's something that's kind of a big idea and usually kind of quirky or different or unusual, something that people can kind of remember and latch onto. Did you hear these guys are doing that? Yeah. Here in Nebraska, just to deviate briefly, do you know that the Volkswagen brand went to Cherry County here in Nebraska and had one of their recent models, one of their late models right there, and back out there in kind of the prairie, and they used this simple and profound layout to promote and introduce their new brand, their new hook with that particular company. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can do, branding, and many communities here in the state of Nebraska struggle with this as well. Community branding is not easy. It's not easy to find people that understand that. New markets, new kinds of work, new people, and a new mandate. All of these words are powerful. Each one of them would have a meeting or a series of meetings devoted to them. And how does your company relate to that? Are they ready to pivot? Are they ready to move forward in this change-oriented period that we're at right here? So again, my name is Lynn Hinderaker. This is WowBiz Nebraska that you're watching right now, but this is your introduction to Nebraska Now. Contact this particular station and this particular organization right here, WowBiz Nebraska, and we will speak to you and include you, talk a little bit about whether you'd like to be part of the Nebraska Now organization. Thank you to the principals of Nebraska Now. That's right. Wow. Very exciting, the right organization at the right time. Look, the show, is always talking about the things that hopefully reflecting what people are worried about, what they're thinking about. And one interesting aspect is, there are trends, of course, all around us all the time, change. And the question is, what's really happening there? Does it impact us? How can we leverage that? Should we bounce it? Should we kind of get involved with them or do exactly the opposite? This is a very common question. And so something you may have noticed in, I think, today's news, today's paper and so on, is that Wendy's is introducing a new value package. Actually, it's priced at $4, $6, and $8. This is their approach towards being attractive to people that are squeezed. They want to make sure that they can afford the food and so on. So this all began a long time ago, and I'll talk to you briefly about the value revolution from the very beginning. In 1987, Taco Bell had been around the country at that time. Glen Bell started down in Southern California. But they had a franchise system, and in certain markets, Taco Bell was not doing well. They had competitors of different Mexican restaurants and different brands and so on. And so I personally was involved with the advertising agency that worked with Taco Bell in this context. It was a difficult time. And the gentleman that was running a couple of those Taco Bells in Lawton, Oklahoma and Wichita Falls, he and I worked together with a great deal of intensity. He felt like he was losing the race pretty badly in that particular market. We came out with the very first 49-cent value menu. It was the very first time this phrase, value menu, had ever been coined and used. By the way, that went up to 59 cents, 69, 79. But here was the interesting thing. It bounced up to a 60% increase in sales in those markets, mostly driven by military people in the communities and fixed income. They were coming twice a day to the local Taco Bells and, of course, taking advantage of the low prices. This was the beginning of a value revolution. This turned into $1 billion turnaround throughout the entire Taco Bell system, which was owned by PepsiCo at that time. So it was a big play, kind of leading over a period of about 3 years. Anyway, so we call that was the first value revolution, reflecting what's going on in the economy. Then what comes next is about 2001. I would say that would be the second value revolution. And I won't go into all the details why, but we've been watching it carefully as things unfold. The pendulum goes from status, prestige, high margins, and so on. Then it goes too far, it swings back, and a big portion of the population is having difficulty paying for things. So all of a sudden now we're offering products and services that are much, much less expensive, sometimes smaller in portions as well. So that was value revolution number two. In 2008, we had a serious problem here in the United States. And so once again, that was value revolution number three. It was a very interesting turnaround there. And then here we are in 2026. By now, McDonald's has put together their own value system, and they call that, they have a value menu. It's pretty lengthy. It goes into up to $8 and $9, $10. I think maybe even $11 for McDonald's response to the need for another cleansing, economic cleansing of sorts. That becomes the value revolution. But Burger King also is going down this road, and all of a sudden today, see, we started with about a $5 price point. That's when most fast food guys were going, well, we're going to get the low end. We're going to sell these items at $5. They've been doing that for about a year. Then they had to bounce it up to about $6 or $7. And so that was their response to the so-called value requirements. But now Wendy's is battling for market share. And so they're at that 4, 6, and 8, bundling together hamburgers and French fries in a variety of different ways, the beverages and so on. So this is fascinating. This is a strong, a serious battle for market share between Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's, because they have a lot of new competitors in that category as well. And of course, we all know a lot of people are not eating in dining rooms anymore because of the pandemic. They're at home, so now DoorDash and other organizations are delivering. It's quite an interesting scenario. I won't go on any farther with it, but you're watching a really strong market share battle, and Wendy's is in it to play. Now listen, here I am. This is a shot right here back in 1987, 88, 89. I was deeply involved in the very first value menu, as you can probably see right here. I came back from Los Angeles to Omaha back in 91, and we were in full thrust at that particular time. Taco Bell was doing extremely well, and the sales were up, and PepsiCo was thrilled because they had $1 billion that was sitting on the table they didn't have 3 or 4 years earlier. So there you go. We see that. Listen, before I wrap up here, one interesting thing is people say, how do I add value? What can we do? What can we be unique? I've got 5 minutes here. I'm going to share these ideas with you. And it should be valuable to you. You might want to scratch down some of these notes because this is the fundamental issue. How do we get more customers in here? We can't lower costs any further. We've got to make our profit margin, and yet we can't seem to get what we're supposed to get on the top line. So here we go. Number one, have a meeting about this, or maybe several. You have to find an unmet need. That's number one. People say, well, we don't really need that, but we don't need this. Believe me, people are creating need and desire while you're going, oh, everything's fine, we haven't done. No, you are not reaching that person that has an unmet need. Number two, apply a value creating idea from another industry. This is a fascinating thing. Marketing people should be able to do this with or for you. You can reach over into this industry, study this or that industry, and say, look what they're doing there. They're bundling that. There's a real service component there. Over here, they're working with knowledge. That's their added value. Maybe we can do that ourselves for this industry we're in right now. Very interesting. Number three, before and after your customers buy your product. There's something going on in their head. Maybe it's a process, by the way. Before they call you up or walk into your store, whatever it is, and they purchase it and then they leave. You don't see them again. You don't know what's going on, but they may be using your product or simply talking about it in a certain way that you're not aware of. So what happens before and after you sell the product to somebody, this is pivotal. This is something that people have to think about and they often skip over. Number four, defamiliarize your product. Think new. Now, earlier in our show, we were talking about this membership group, Nebraska Now, and of course, NEW was prominent there. So that's really where it's at right now in our entire economy is what is new? There's so much coming at us. Of course, artificial intelligence would be the first example. There are many, many other examples, but you have to think differently and you have to think new. What can we do that's really new? All right, find a symbol. I mentioned to you Volkswagen before became a symbol for open thinking, right? They were in Nebraska, this was years ago, and they brought one of their vehicles out. And it was so wide open and kind of spacious, and it seemed to appeal to younger people who wanted to actually think in a broader context. They're out of college and They're trying to figure out what life is all about, and it really fit into their view of the world. Number 6, embrace knowledge as added value. This is what I mentioned to you before. If you bundle some new idea, some new concept, something that's been defined, somebody that doesn't know, I never heard of that before, but it seems to really intrigue me and it fits with your product, that's very cool. Knowledge. Now I can become smarter because I use your product. Number 7, wrapping up, trends that are reshaping your ecosystem. Well, we've already talked about all the stuff that we're seeing, for instance, on TV. A lot of it in programming on the web is critical. And some of these trends having to do with, for instance, the customer. Middle-aged men are pulling back from their careers. Millions of them don't know what to do with themselves career-wise. They're laying around at home. They're unhappy. They're depressed. Typically their wife is working. What can we do for this guy and these people in this context? And then finally, create alliances. Now this is something that I've talked about a great deal. I've formed groups, the ecosystem, about working with each other, collaborating, helping each other, making referrals and so on. It's a difficult thing to pull off. A lot of people are just frankly selfish. They only want to do what's good for them. They don't want to get involved with other people. They don't want to hear their feedback because they don't really know what's going on and so on. So it's not an easy thing to find the right combination of people who want to sell to the same market or industry segment and so on. So it's a very interesting idea and it's appealing, but it's difficult to pull off, and many groups struggle with that. I'm Lynn Hinderaker with WowBiz Nebraska. This has been a great show, beginning with John Fullerton and his insights into buying and selling a business all the way down the road. We have a new company, a new organization here in the Omaha area. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. Thank you so much for watching our show. We'll see you next time. Lots of education, lots of insight, lots of updates, a lot of updates on trends that are shaping your opportunity or maybe causing a challenge for you. You've got to get around it. Think about people like ourselves to help educate and bring you all the way to the front of the pack. Huh? I got there. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.